Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar in our International Education series, Charterhouse Lagos, a global education rooted in Nigeria. We're delighted to shine a spotlight on Charterhouse Lagos, one of the most exciting new additions to Africa's international education landscape. As the first Charterhouse school on the continent, Charterhouse Lagos brings over 400 years of British educational heritage to Nigeria, with a forward-looking vision to inspire the next generation of global leaders. And I'm joined today by John Todd, Director of Education, Charterhouse Lagos. John, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, Fiona, and thank you for inviting me today.
John is a seasoned educational leader whose career has spanned continents and cultures, bringing a rich international experience to his role as Director of Education at Charterhouse Lagos. John has been part of the Charterhouse Lagos project since its inception, playing a key role in building, procurement and staff recruitment, which ended, of course, with the opening in 2024-25. Located on a purpose-built 70-hectare campus in the heart of Lagos, the school offers a world-class learning environment for children from primary through to secondary, with both day and boarding options. So, John, over to you. It'd be wonderful to hear more about the excitement of opening the school last year and all about the curriculum and what you offer young people going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you for the introduction. So I've been working on this project now for 7 or 8 years, and it came to fruition last year when we opened for primary school. So we opened with years 1 to 6 in 2024-25. And then this year we've added our secondary school with years 7, 8, and 9, and also boarding. So 95% of our secondary school students are actually in boarding, which is really great. Next year, we're going a bit further. We are adding year 10 for IGCSE and year 12 for A levels. So then you get the whole range of the school education program. One of the common things we're asked is why Lagos? And I think for us, we are the very first British independent school in West Africa. No one's been here before, and we saw so many children having to go to the UK or the US because there was no world-class school in Lagos or in Nigeria. And Lagos is very much the business hub of West Africa. And since we opened, we've seen a lot of children coming back from the UK, from the US, but also we've got children who've now joined us from South Africa, from Ghana, and we're looking at other markets in this region. So what this allows parents to do, particularly parents from Nigeria or of African origin, is send their child to a school that in essence is rooted in African culture. And so many of our parents tell us they want their children to have that British independent school education, which we all know is one of the best educational, perhaps the best educational offering in the world, but they don't really want to send their children all the way to the UK, 7 or 8 hours away, and they want them to have that sense of African values, African culture, and here we are now, we can do it here in Lagos. We are so lucky to have an absolutely huge campus as well. So 70 hectares, yes, you heard that right. Our site is 1 kilometer long. So when I do
Wow.
my morning walk, my morning exercise walk, I have a route, doesn't go all the way around, that's about 1.5 kilometers, a lap of some of the track. So we've got lots and lots of space. And we've got really amazing world-class facilities. Obviously, we have a very good focus on our teaching facilities. So really great air-conditioned classrooms with interactive boards, a really good tech provision. But then we've also built in a lot of specialist rooms like art, like music. We have STEM rooms, we have robotics rooms and makerspace rooms in both primary and secondary schools. Um, we have generators on site, and that's interesting because the light has just gone off, and this is quite a good thing to show because in the next 2 minutes our generators will come on. And being in Nigeria, you have to be very much self-sufficient. So we have generators on site. We have water extraction and purification facilities on site. We have kitchens and catering on site. We have a full team of engineers. Security is a big concern for many parents. Um, so obviously our site is surrounded by a wall and wires, so barbed wire. But then we have 800 CCTV cameras. So everywhere you go on the site, or if someone gets close to the outside of the site, our 24/7 security center will know there's someone coming close. We have guards at the gate. We have armed staff as well. So we take security really very, very seriously. So what we've tried to do is set up an environment that has everything. And when you walk into our site, there's beautiful buildings, but there's also beautiful green spaces as well. So people walk in and sometimes say, this isn't Lagos, this isn't Nigeria. And they're only seeing the front. And then they go out the back and they see, so there we are, our lights come on. So obviously our power generation systems are working well there. The other side of our main buildings, we've got our 25-meter swimming pool. We've got a 400-meter track. We've got a full-size football pitch. We've got multiple basketball pitches. So alongside that really, really strong academic focus, we also have sport, music, arts, all of those things. And the boarding house as well, worth talking about. Most of our secondary school students opt to be in boarding. And so we've got some really great boarding facilities. We have dining facilities on site that the boarders obviously use as well that do local and international foods. And our boarders are really, really happy. And there's lots of information on our website and on our social media, which has got up-to-date pictures of what's happening in our community and some of our student media personalities talking about their experience of school.
Yeah, so obviously the boarding has a great reputation
Mm,
for Charterhouse. So how do you replicate that same sense when you're
yeah.
in Lagos, which is rather contrasting the environment? And how does it create independence and leadership, do you think?
Yeah, and one of the real positives of working with Charterhouse in the UK, and they've got 400 years of history. They've got a fabulous site at Godalming. Was the focus on boarding, and boarding very much is part of secondary school life in Nigeria. So we use the same standards as a boarding school would in the UK, so the national minimum standards for boarding. Our boarding is inspected, it is audited annually by Charterhouse UK, as is our academic provision. So they come out, they spend 2 or 3 days with us, and they check, are we meeting at least those minimum standards? And of course, we are aiming to meet standards far higher than that. Are we offering the spirit of a Charterhouse education? Now, and that's much harder to define. And so that's why our program very much focuses on values. And we talk about things like respect, courtesy, service, well-being. And we think these are the ways that draw us together with Charterhouse in the UK. We try and give our children, what we're trying to develop with them is an increasing sense of independence and responsibility. So, for example, we have leadership structures within the boarding house. So we have boarding prefects who have responsibility. Um, we are trying to get the children into regular routines. So every day they get an hour and a half of prep or homework. And once the children get to year 9, that homework is supervised, but the children are in a special room, a separate room, so that they have a little bit more space and a little bit more independence. We're still watching them, but we're giving them the opportunity to make decisions about how they work, and about how they learn. So if you go into our year 9 room, you'll see kids with headphones on, listening to music, but they still need to be writing or reading and doing their work. If you're in year 7 or 8, that's not allowed. So we're building on those privileges. Of course, privileges can also be taken away. So our expectations are high that those young people will live up to those things. We're also giving our students, as they get older, more choice about how they use their time, choice about what time they go to bed within reason. Um, we've been very careful within our boarding to think about how do we create a really good sense of community, relationships, and conversations. And one of the ways we've done that is taken away their mobile phones, um, which is really popular amongst parents. And we've had surprisingly little pushback from our students on this. So we have a supervised time every day where students, because they still need to talk to their parents, to their families. So there's a time every day in the boarding house, in public, where the students can access their phones. Now, I say in public, that doesn't mean everyone's listening, but they can't go away to their rooms and make calls or do whatever we know teenagers do on mobile phones these days. It's done in public, so we know it's sensible. Um, and they can have conversations with their families. They can have conversations with mum and dad on a daily basis, but we know it's being kept safe. We know that also they don't have access to the phone where they can send and receive messages. Um, we know that leads to so many issues around cyberbullying. So we found this has been very effective in preventing issues, but also keeping children away from the dangers of the internet. And of course, our internal systems, we have all sorts of monitoring and filtering, so that big worry for parents: are my children watching porn on the internet? This is a question we get asked. For our systems, it's not only that will be blocked, but if a child tries to access inappropriate content, we get a message. So we know you have tried to access the wrong thing, and we will be talking to you. So we've taken cybersecurity very, very seriously, and particularly for those children living on site, um, because we are there to look after them. Their house parents, the resident tutors, they need to be protecting these children, and building up that resilience. And also, we want school to be a time when children learn, where they're not worrying about so much about social pressures. They're not worrying about what's going on online. And yeah, I'm a parent. I have 3 children of my own. I really do understand. And so we're doing everything we can. It's not just about protecting children, it's also about educating them about the dangers. And we have regular talks about online safety for our students as well.
Charterhouse Lagos is part of a family, I suppose, of international schools. So
Yes,
the school is Godalming in Surrey, and then there's a school in Malaysia and in Almaty, Kazakhstan. Is that
that's
right?
right.
Yes.
That's right.
And
Yes,
so,
that's opening this year.
yes, it's their sort of interaction between pupils from the different schools. Are there opportunities for them to
Well,
get to
between our
know?
students, it's still early days, and there are more members of the Charterhouse family of schools joining soon. So that's something to watch out for. But I'm in regular touch with Charterhouse in the UK, and in terms of governance, Charterhouse as members of their school on our governing body. I'm in touch with the headmaster of Charterhouse Almaty, as well as the Malaysia school. So at this point in our life, which is fairly new as a family of schools, we're talking to each other, and we've got some ambitious plans for the future. So I'll have to say, for student opportunities, it's kind of watch this space. But we very much hope that we can use each other's skills and experience to develop some programs for the future.
Brilliant. And what about interaction with, say, sports leagues? Do you have that in across Africa, or how does that work? Because I know a lot of international schools are in
Yeah.
sort of circuits.
Yes. So at the moment, because we're still new, and we're still quite young, our focus has been on Lagos, and so we've started with some football leagues. We've done some swimming competitions. Bigger than that, we've hosted a fencing World Cup. So we've had some international competitions actually hosted on our school site already. But in the longer term, we are members of a number of international and regional organizations such as COBIS, and we will look to engage with some of those competitions so that our students get the opportunity to travel and compete in, not just in Lagos or in Nigeria, but to the different parts of the world, and possibly look at running some kind of program for sports at Charterhouse over there in Godalming, because they've got fabulous facilities. So that would be a great opportunity for all of our schools to come together.
Brilliant. And then what about expectations for your pupils? Where are they going to go into higher education, do you think? Universities, and what
Yes,
parts of the world will they be
yes.
heading off to, do you think?
So our expectation is that all of our students will head overseas. It's still a struggle to find top-class universities in Nigeria. So traditionally, Nigerian students go either to the UK or the US, depending on finances and politics. So when the US is a little bit more unstable, numbers go down there. Canada is also seen as a more a safer option quite often. What we're seeing at the moment is more students heading to the UK, and so looking at particularly Russell Group universities, but focusing on our children for the best fit for them. And often parents coming in and say, we want our children to go to this university. And we're looking at it from, well, what are the child's strengths? What is the course they want to do, and where is the best university for that course? For a child in Nigeria who's lived in a boarding school, how are they going to be supported on that university? So is a campus university right for them? Are they going to survive if they have to find their own accommodation and cope with all the challenges of day-to-day life, in their first year? So it's part of the process that we go through with parents of saying, what is the right place for your child, rather than you selected that because that's the number one university in the world. Is that going to support your child's specific needs? Let's get the fit for the child. Um, and at the end of the day, it's the child going to the university, not the parent. So they've got to have a say in it. They've got to be able to cope with it. And it's a process where we have counselors. We also work with external organizations. But we also have to draw the family in. The family is absolutely paying for this. They're part of the decision-making process. So it's not a very simple thing to do. There's lots of moving parts. What we want to achieve is the child picks the right course in the right university and then goes on to success at the next stage of their career. And then we hope they come back to Nigeria and make a difference in Nigeria. That's really important to us, particularly with our Nigerian students, is that they're coming back. But if you were an expatriate coming to our school, and let's say you were not from the UK or the US, we also have support for international universities. So if you were going to Hong Kong, China, Australia, Europe, wherever, we have links with external support agencies who have expertise in universities across the world. So wherever the child is going to university, we've got people we can call on and say, help these parents are looking at, let's say, Germany or South Korea, give us some advice, give us some guidance, and they can guide the parents and the family through on a step-by-step process for each country.
And what about apprenticeships and vocational qualifications? They seem to be catching on and employers running those. How is that working out in Africa and Nigeria, or are people
It's
still
not a thing
driven
here.
by a
It's
university? Not a thing.
it's not a thing here. I mean, we are an academically selective school, so in that sense, our offering is IGCSE and A levels, with the expectation that students graduate into tertiary education, into universities.
And you talked briefly there about contribution to Nigeria and hoping that young people will stay in the country. So could you perhaps expand a little more on that, and what's the hope that Charterhouse will give to the educational landscape?
I think a big concern is so many of Nigeria's brightest and best go to school at 11 or 13, and they spend 10 or more years overseas at school and then at university, and then don't come back. Um, they don't have the cultural skills, they don't necessarily have the language skills, and they don't have the contacts. And Nigeria is a very relational society. And so, what our hope is that by allowing these children to grow up within their own culture, um, by being in the same school and creating that network of like minded individuals, they will then go away for university for a short time, but then they will be able to come back and fit. They know the culture because they've lived in it, they know people. Because to come to a school like Charterhouse Lagos, you're going to come from a certain socio-economic background. That's a reality. This is very much like the situation we see very often in UK schools. And so you will have the right contacts to work with in terms of business. So we have been already compared to the Eton of Africa. And my response was, yes, right concept, wrong brand. Um, so we're the Charterhouse of Africa, but it very much is about building those networks for the future, because Nigeria's future is, and every country's future is in their youth and their young people, and we want these young people to go to get these tertiary skills and then come back and make a difference in this great country.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for sharing your inspiring vision for the future for not only pupils that are there already, but from going forward over many, many years. And what numbers is the school up to now, and where do you think you're going to be ultimately in terms of
So
numbers of
right now we have
pupils?
about 120 students. That will go up again in January, and then we expect to start next year with around 250, 300 students. So very, very strong growth. We have lots of space. We have more space to build more classrooms as and when we need it. So we're very confident, we're very positive about the future. And we describe Charterhouse as a vote of confidence in the future of Nigeria, because if Nigeria can support a school like this, then honestly anything is possible.
Brilliant. And how much have you enjoyed this adventure and the ongoing adventure?
Well, for me, it's a return. I worked in Lagos. I was head of Green Spring School in Lagos 2001 to 2007. My oldest two children were born in Lagos, and then we moved off to the Middle East and then China. So in that sense, it's a return to a place I know. And I've worked in education for a long time. I'm old, and for me, this project is the opportunity with an incredibly supportive set of investors. This is the opportunity to put all those ideas, all that experience into practice. And so they've allowed me and my team to be involved in every stage of the planning of the facilities. And when people come round, they can see that what we've done with the architecture of the school is very intentional. Now, yes, it looks big and grand, but then inside, the way the classrooms are set out, the way things are organized, it's very intentional. It hasn't been just designed by architects, it's been designed by educators, and it really makes a difference. It makes a difference to how the children feel. It makes a difference to the way you can interact with the facilities in the school, because as teachers, we know what we want in a classroom, in a school. We know what we want it to look like, to feel like, and you can tell. So that's been really, really great. And going forward, we've got hugely ambitious plans for this school, for more schools, and our investors are just raring to go.
Well, it all sounds very exciting,
It
and
is. Thank you.
congratulations on what you've achieved so far, and enjoy the rest of your second year. And thank you very much for contributing and talking to our parents, employers, and relocation professionals supporting talent moving around the world. And we encourage everyone to get in touch. There are contact details here, and you can find out about admissions. And in addition, there's plenty of information about international education and schools on our two websites, Relocate Global and Think Global People, as well as digital content. So please join us for more adventures around the world with education and schools, and do dip into the content and join us at our online International Education and Schools fairs twice a year.